This will be a video on how to make a nice standard Mosfet, not a computerized one. This just will protect your trigger contacts and electronics in your gun if you're using a high discharge battery like a LiPo. So just a simple one. You can get the parts for pretty cheap. I recommend going on digikey.com and you can find all the parts that you need. You can find a list of parts that you need on unconventional airsoft Mosfets. Just Google that and you'll find the parts, and you will find a written process how to do it. It is very simple. I used a written process, but for more visual, hands-on learners, I will make a video. So what you'll need your FET chip right here, and you'll need to take off the center thing. I usually just bend it off. You can cut it, just bend it, wiggle a little bit, wiggle, 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 and then it'll break right off, right where it comes out of the plastic. That's what you need. Okay. And after that, you'll need to get one of your resistors, or if you're following the guide on unconventional airsoft MOSFETs, you'll need the 2.2 K ohms resistor, and you'll need to put this so it fits on here. I usually place it on top like this, and then I kind of just twist it around a bit on one side, get it to fit on, then I twist once around the other side, and just keep twisting it around. Make sure it's tight. You can use needle nose pliers to get it even tighter, but I solder it on afterwards, so I don't really care. Try not to break the other little things that come off the Mosfet chip. I like to get it pretty tight on there. You use needle noses and squish it, bunch it up a bit, and just make sure it goes on. You'll need to solder it because it'll slide right off. So what I'll do is I'll get my handy dandy soldering iron, and I will get my solder. I only have pretty thick solder, but I suggest thinner solder. And then what I do is just solder it on so it stays on. Do not hold the soldering iron on here for too long because it'll damage the MOSFET. Just a little quick solders like I did. So once you have that, you can get your 100 ohm resistor and make sure you put it on the right side. You can either put the diode on first, but I usually put the resistors on first since, I don't know, it just seems order to me. There's a little loop like there. That's what I use to fasten it on. I don't know, it just seems easier to me. You just stick it through there, bend it around like that, so it's a perfect length, and then it kind of holds it in, so then you can just twist this one around too. And then you can get your soldering iron and just go like that. It'll melt the solder you already put on, so you won't need to put any more solder on. This will be able to move around. These little wires are pretty strong. They don't really break. They're very flexible, but they won't snap too easily. But don't test it. So once you have that on, you can just ignore that for a little bit. Then you can put your diode on. Make sure this the gray part there, make sure it's facing like this. So what you'll need to do, you can get your needle noses and just kind of bend it around, kind of like that. Actually, put this one on first, and you will need a little bolt and nut like this. You just stick it through. You can do it the other way, doesn't really matter. And you can put this on. This will hold your wires on. These are also good to have. So you can just solder your wire into there. But solder your wire into it before you attach it here, or take it off to solder it, just because it's not good to hold the solder on, or even do any soldering with the Mosfet. So you can put this in here, like put the little bolt through the hole, and then put that on, and then put that on, and then you can get your little nut. And if I can do it, and just tighten it on. You can make sure it's pretty tight so none of the diode doesn't come off, or the negative wiring thing. Excuse my crazy cats. Okay, so once you have it on like that, you can bolt it on, tighten it, make it tighter. But let's leave it like that. So that's pretty much, I guess that's really it. After you bend this, this is pretty hard to bend. This is pretty thick, but I usually bring it around once like that, then tighten it with the needle noses. Try not to break it. And then what I do for that longer wire, there's a little thing hanging off, just cut it just so it doesn't get in the way. You can flatten it out. And, well, that's basically the Mosfet. It literally takes, I don't know, you can probably put it together in 5 minutes. So yeah, there it is. So you put the black wire that goes to the motor in there, a little thin, I recommend 24 gauge wiring on here to go to the trigger contacts, and then you have a thin wire hooked up straight to your thick wire at the connector. That goes, the thin wire goes to the other spot on the trigger contacts, and the thick red wire goes straight to your motor. There's no thick wires going on to your trigger contacts, and there's a very low voltage going through your trigger contacts, protecting them. And you'll get a better trigger response because you get the direct current going straight to your motor instead of having to travel through the trigger contacts, which cause a lot of resistance. But yeah, that's basically that. Thank you for watching.